Today is the 6th of September and we are paying homage to the martyrs who have been defending our country for so long. And today we have very special guests in the studio. Today we have a story of the aftermath of the Kamra base attack, and that took place in 2012 in August, where two very precious and sophisticated aircraft of the PAF were very badly damaged. Those aircraft were Saab 2000s AEW and C aircraft. The original manufacturers of these planes said that they were a complete write-off and they could not be repaired and should be consigned to the junkyard. Well, that's when the PAF threw the gauntlet for its engineers, who took up this challenge and made the country proud by resurrecting the aircraft and bringing them back to life. And it is our honor and privilege to have them in our studios today. I would like to introduce our guests in the studio. Joining me, we have Air Commodore Rizwan Riaz. He is a PhD in aerodynamics, and his specialization is structure repair and certification. Along with him, we have Air Commodore Safdar. He is an aeronautical engineer and a PhD in structure and design and repair. And along with him, we have Wing Commander Mohammed Rafique. He was in charge of executing the entire project. So welcome once again, sir, in our studios. Sir, let's start with the backdrop of what actually happened that day, that fateful day in 2012 when the Kamra base was attacked. If you could give us a recap of those events.
So thank you very much for having us, first of all. That day, which was 27th of Ramadan, the enemy thought that they could deny us a very precious capability. We must understand that these aircraft have nothing to do with the war on terror, so we must identify our enemy very clearly. So they tried to take away this capability from us. They forgot they were dealing with Pakistanis and the Pakistan Air Force. We not only, alhamdulillah, recovered them, but through our leadership, through our capability, and through our nation's resolve, we came out much stronger on the other side. So let's look at that as a challenge which produced so many opportunities that we actually took advantage of.
So if you could just summarily describe what actually happened when that attack took place and how badly were those aircraft damaged?
Okay, the group of terrorists entered the area. They walked past half of the factories and came straight for these aircraft. So this was a planned attack on these aircraft. And when they reached them, they lit a fire. They shot bullets at them, shot a couple of rockets at the hangars. The aircraft were very badly damaged. There was fire damage to the top of the aircraft. There were bullet holes. They were very extensively damaged. So, and the suit and everything, when we first looked at the aircraft, they looked like complete write-offs, as the company said.
All right. So, Rizwan Sahab, in your opinion, if after this attack, once you were asked to look at the damage and survey the damage, what was your reaction? How did you feel when you saw the aircraft?
This I would like, I'm Air Commodore Shakeel Safdar.
I'm sorry, sir.
No problem with that. Yes, once I clearly very vividly remember that once I was asked to look at the damage of the aircraft, the first thoughts were not very good. But however, like any other professional, there is a dream that whatever you learn, you practice it or you implement it. I'm extremely grateful to Almighty that He gave me the opportunity to do this task. And based on all the scientific knowledge latest, we carried out a damage assessment. The biggest part in this damage assessment was to figure out that how much of the area is damaged until what area we have to repair. Because some areas look nice, but they have been heat affected. So how much of juice is left in that structure? So that was the difficult part. And we managed to do that on a very scientific basis. And you'll be glad to hear that later on, we presented our study to the aircraft manufacturer. And based on our studies, he changed his initial opinion. And he considered our opinion and considered the aircraft as reparable and considered our repair scheme as doable. So that was a big achievement, significant achievement, which gave confidence in our abilities and a lot of belief that we can do it.
All right, so I'd like to ask Rafique Saab now that, Rafique Saab, you were given the overall task of executing the plans and the redesigns or the homework that was done by Shakeel Saab and Rizwan Saab. You put that into practice. How did you find that experience?
I being in the closer vicinity of the incident area, I was the first one to see the aircraft on the very second day. And based on my 40 years experience in Air Force and in the same field, so my preliminary evaluation revealed that we will be able to do the job, inshallah. And later on, that thing was proven by the theoretically and scientifically by Air Commodore Shakeel and his team, and which gave us the full confidence that we will be able to do and execute the job, inshallah, in a very nice way.
So you were also in charge of collecting the team of people who worked on the aircraft with their own hands. So how did you come across, or how did you decide who those people would be, those technicians, those mechanics who worked on the plane?
Actually, I had happened to carry on the works of similar nature on the fighter airplanes. That was, as I was telling, the 40 years old story. That was the long journey. So we happened to see such similar type of damages on fighters aeroplanes. So I was knowing my people personally, and I gathered them around and made a team. And later on, that team was augmented by Air Commodore Shakeel by giving his best students, fresh graduates from academy. They came into my team, and then it was a combination of experience, skill, knowledge, and then we were able to do the things.
All right. Well, Shakeel Saab, in your opinion, what did the manufacturers say to you about getting the plane repaired? And what was that whole interaction with the manufacturers? If you could recap for us or recall for us that conversation.
Yeah, yes, the manufacturer, once they had done their damage assessment, and they had just not said on the basis of visual inspections. They had done their scientific assessments, and based on the overall assessment, they said that probably the extent of damage, it's so huge, the magnitude of damage is so vast, that it will be very difficult to repair these aircraft. And with the toolings required to undertake this repair, it may not be possible. However, once we discussed with them and we gave our proposal of the whole plan which we made based on the structural principles, modern structural principles, and they were very, I will say, very open-minded. And at a point, they alluded to that maybe this kind of work has never been done in aviation history. So this was, a great motivator for us, that if it's not been done in aviation history, then let's do it. So that motivated us. And the damage assessment was such that the aircraft only structure was not damaged. There was significant damage to wiring. There was significant damage to systems. So what we did was we formulated two teams, a structure repair team and a systems recovery team. The structure repairs team, as Wing Commander Rafique has highlighted, included young engineers, and I would like to name them because they need to be honored. Flight Lieutenant Nabil, Flight Lieutenant Ali Rauf, and Flight Lieutenant Musawwir. They were the backbone of the structural modeling. And they presented their theoretical work to Wing Commander Rafique, who undertook the execution of those repairs.
Fantastic. Well, let's move on and talk about the process which you went through. Rizwan Saab, you were a part of that process of redesigning the planes. So talk us through the process that you went through in recovering those aircraft once they were beyond flying capability.
Absolutely. As Shakeel mentioned, it was a huge engineering challenge, but it was a challenge. And so we threw all our knowledge behind it, and we had such support from the air staff. The previous chief of air staff, the current chief of air staff, our DCS engineering, who heads the engineering branch, they supported us and sort of let us run free. Go fix these planes somehow. And so Shakeel, being an expert in structures, gave us long lectures every day of how we're going to redesign this stuff. Myself and my team, which were the aerodynamics and certification team, let me name them also. Squadron Leader Shahid, Squadron Leader Umair, Flight Lieutenant Adnan, Flight Lieutenant Ahmad Bilal. Pure, wonderful youngsters who did all fantastic work. We worked out a plan. They would do the structure repair. We would apply international standards and see that this work is up to that standard. Because this was such a magnitude of work that we weren't sure how to gain that confidence that what we're doing is right. So we decided that we will pick up international standards, start applying them. As a result of this, we created a capability of being able to certify any military aircraft. Another capability we gained out of this incident.
Wow, that's fantastic. So after you gained this capability, how did you feel, and how did the other, especially the manufacturer, after seeing the work that you did, what were the reactions that you got from the manufacturer and what was their response?
Well, I think that the most amazing part was that the same manufacturer who had declared these aircraft unrecoverable, then even after when they agreed that you could recover them, they had said that these aircraft, as far as we are concerned, are no longer in our registry. They're yours. Do whatever you want with them. But once they saw the work that had been performed, the work and theoretical work by Shakeel and his team, and the certification work that by our team, they not only acknowledged our work, they accepted them back into their registry, in a way putting their stamp of approval.
Okay, Rafique Sahab, you tell us about the capabilities of the aeronautical complex at Kamra. How difficult or easy was it to achieve your task?
Aeronautical complex was established to go for the overhauling of our fighter aeroplanes in early 70s. And we have 4 factories looking after various areas. For example, Mirage rebuild factory, aircraft rebuild factory where we do the Chinese weapon system, and then we have aircraft manufacturing factory where even the JF-17 is being manufactured today. And so we have excellent facilities over there. All kind of things are available over there. And there was a lot of support from all the factories, especially for my area, the 2 factories, Mirage rebuild factory and then aircraft manufacturing factory, because we had to go for the manufacturing of small bits and pieces from AMF. So they supported me very well. The entire all 4 factories in fact supported, but my area related to structure was basically focused on these 2 factories.
All right. So, Shakeel Sahab, in your opinion, if you could describe the effort that was put in salvaging these aircraft.
I think sometimes it's hard to believe that we did it, because the effort was so much and the spirit was so high, and the backing of the air staff, the chief of air staff, and the space which was given to us to just do it at the best of our capabilities. And after having achieved what we achieved, it was very satisfying. And the support of the factories, as has been told, not only suffered around the structure, but also from the systems point of view. As I've said earlier, that the wiring of the aircraft was severely damaged, and at the same time, some of the components. So all that wiring was developed in aircraft rebuild factory. It has an indigenous capability of developing any looms or wire of aviation standards. Then the aviation production factory did the testing and repair of some of the components. And overall, if it was such a huge integrated effort, that really yielded the results. It was not a single man's effort. It was a team effort backed up by full support of the chief of the air staff, deputy chief of the air staff engineering, and everybody we called upon.
And Rizwan Sahab, what would you say with the lessons that you learned? One of them being, which I can observe at the moment, is that the unity and integrity of the Air Force was, superb, which enabled you to achieve this incredible milestone. But for you, what were the learning experiences going through this whole project?
Obviously, first thing is what we can achieve. Whatever we put our mind to, we can do it. I think we should not be surprised. Pakistan has done it numerous times. So for us to talk about this as if it is something surprising, I think that's wrong. Whenever we put our mind to it, we do it. These aircraft were a challenge. The Air Force got together. It wasn't just 2, 3, or 10 people. The whole Air Force got together. From the chief of air staff to the drivers, to the cleaners, everybody got together. We had to fix these. And people were working nights, people were working days, weekends, holidays, everything worked together to bring these 2 aircraft back. That feeling that you can do anything you put your mind to has led to so many other capabilities during this process that you almost have to thank the enemy for giving us this. Because we have come out of this with much better capabilities, stronger. Organizationally, we have built design center because of this. We have built a certification agency because of this. And our repair and structure and design capability has gone through the roof.
So there's always a silver lining.
Oh, golden lining.
Rafique Sahab, you tell us about your experience of overseeing the entire project, of working with the technicians and with the engineers and with the designers, integrating that whole process. How was that for you?
Well, I was in the field on the aircraft throughout the entire project, and my job was a bit difficult also because I had to coordinate between the PSC factories and air headquarters, and taking guidance from my advisor, who was Air Commodore Shakeel, into implementation of the repair schemes. And then during the execution, we faced a lot of challenges, but the challenges, the challenge was big. The resilience of the Air Force and the resilience of the people working there, that was also big.
It was a great achievement.
It was a great achievement.
Shakeel Sahab, if you could describe the entire effort that was required for this project, what was going through your mind, and how did you actually achieve it?
Each day brought a lot of satisfaction of what we had achieved, and each day brought new challenges. But as they were unfolding, the success which we were getting gave us the confidence that whatever the challenge, we'll overcome. We'll overcome through the best of our capabilities and provide right engineering solutions. And I would like to point out over here, once this whole recovery was done, the systems recovery as such, there was a huge part played by the squadron itself, who was the owner of these aircraft. Squadron Arms, Squadron Flirt, they played a pivotal role in the systems recovery part. And once this whole recovery was done and the certification of the whole process by an independent agency, that was very important. Because what I was doing and what I was guiding, if it was not independently checked, then there would be chances of error. So the task which was done by Commodore Rizwan through his certification team was fantastic. Once they did this complete certification of the aircraft, believe you me, it's very hard to take a heat-affected aircraft in the air. And I would like to tell you that this was nobody else than the Chief of the Air Staff.
Yeah, fantastic, because one would imagine if there was fire damage, then the fuselage would be warped and all kinds of problems would have developed.
Yeah. Once this repair was done, and the confidence which he showed in our abilities and the trust, it needed a total belief. And he took that aircraft on the first sortie, and that was a great pride for us.
All right. Rizwan Sahab, how did you manage to make sure that all the work that was being done was at the international standards, as you've mentioned?
Well, this was another learning experience for us. When the repair started, we sat amongst ourselves and said, how are we going to have the confidence that what we have done is right? So we thought there must be some rules in the world somewhere which deal with this kind of magnitude of work. So we found rules, we invented some, we found there are standards in the world which already exist, and we had to make some of our own. But the idea was that as long as we follow international standards, aviation standards, military aviation standards, and then document them properly, that anybody in the world could come and check them and say, okay, the work you have done is good, then we would also be sure. And we did that. And alhamdulillah, the whole team performed in such a matter of, it was like a clockwork.
Everybody. So how long did this entire project process last?
Oh, the first aircraft came out in about 2 years?
Yeah, the first aircraft came in about 2 years and the next in 1 year.
All right. And how much did you have to spend on recovering these aircraft? I think that's also a pertinent question that you'd like to answer. Rizwan Sahab or Shakeel Sahab?
I think it was peanuts of what the cost of the aircraft was. If I would say it was only 5% or something like that, that would be more appropriate.
Even more unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a total indigenous capability. As Air Commodore Rizwan has highlighted, that the capability which we have achieved during this recovery is even beyond expectations. The challenges which were thrown to the different factories, they performed really brilliantly, out of the skins. And they achieved things which were beyond their original capacity. And now they are there within capability. So it's a huge capability achievement which we have done and which we have achieved so far.
Okay, and then once the project was completed, I'm sure you must have invited the manufacturer to come and have a look at your work. So what was the reaction when those people were invited back to see what you had achieved?
I think when in the start of the project, when Shakeel actually gave them a big briefing, engineering briefing on how the plan is, they had gained that confidence that they know what they're doing. But when they actually saw it happening and then they saw it flying, I think even they didn't believe it. And that's why they took it back into their normal registry list and took it off all kinds of restrictions, because, I mean, they were really impressed. And they said so.
Fantastic. Well, moving on, in addition to the recovery of the aircraft, what are the other outcomes of this project. You've mentioned that you've achieved so much and learned so much in the process, but if you could specify what were those things that you learned out of this, and what was new that you were able to achieve?
Okay, as Air Commodore Shakeel just mentioned, all our factories gained capability. We went beyond capacity, so whatever we learned, that was added. But in addition, the air staff got this confidence that our engineering capability is far more than what we're doing right now, so let's build it up. Our human resource is good enough that we can take much bigger challenges. So the Chief of Air Staff decided to set up the first multidisciplinary design center in Kamra, first of its kind in Pakistan, which is now been operating for about 2 years. Then, seeing the success of that and the capability of our engineers even then, he recently inaugurated the aviation city in Kamra, which is a much grander dream, and inshallah which will become a regional hub of aviation sciences and put Pakistan really truly on the map.
Excellent, sir. Shakeel sir, after this plane was recovered and after it flew, what's next? I mean, what did you do you think that we'd be able to manufacture these aircraft on our own now that you went through this whole process, or do you think we're still a long way from that?
No, I think we are already doing manufacturing of JF-17 aircraft.
Right.
So we have got a lot of knowledge in that area. Now, the addition of the knowledge which we have gained and the setting up those formal facilities, which my friend has highlighted, the aviation city, and that would bridge all the gaps. That would bring in all the required knowledge to undertake all these work at international standards. And I would just like to add over here that once you were asking that once the SAP team came and saw these aircraft and witnessed the overall work quality, whatever theoretical work we do, that is one side of the picture. But the execution, if it's not done right, the aircraft flight safety and aircraft life is in serious jeopardy. And the quality of work which Wing Commander Rafique and his team did, we are all very proud that he was made Wing Commander on the first flight day. Fantastic. By the Chief of the Air Staff. So excellent. That was also unprecedented thing which was done on that day. And his work was appreciated. The quality of actual work, execution work, was appreciated by Saab, everybody who saw that.
Fantastic. So let's also talk about the importance of the leadership role of the PAF. What was their contribution to the entire project? Rizwan Sahib, if you'd like to answer that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nothing can be done without leadership. We were just young engineers, let me call ourselves young even now, but the Chief of Air Staff, the Deputy Chief of the Air Staff Engineering, the Deputy Chief of the Air Staff Operations, these are the top three of the Air Force got together and gave us that guidance and the leverage to go and do whatever we thought right. We would update them like they were our instructors. We would sit in front of them, tell them this is what we want to do. They would say, do this. Wherever we needed support of any kind, it's always leadership. If the leadership lets the youngsters run loose, they'll achieve anything.
Oh, that is also a great lesson to have been learned after this entire project.
Oh, absolutely.
And I hope that lesson is extended further in other fields in our country as well. Well, let's hope that takes place. Rafique Saab, talk to us about the actual physical work that went in recovering these aircraft. Talk to us about those processes and the individuals, the people who achieved this goal, sir.
The basic thing was to devise the repair schemes, which was done by the experienced people. They gave their inputs, and then they were given the scientific shape by Air Commodore Shakeel and the young engineers which I mentioned earlier. And they were the part of the analysis and finalizing the repair schemes and getting them approved through me, by the Air Commodore Shakeel. That was the very first part. And then the second part was the execution work. The execution work was, obviously, we had no experience of such aeroplane before. But the background, the basic metallurgy, the basic structural things are the same. So we followed those rules. We took help and guidance from the OEM manuals also in certain cases, and we were able to execute, alhamdulillah.
Fantastic. Well, Shakeel Saab, you were one of the instrumental individuals in this project. So tell us about your conversations with the original parent company, Saab, that you had, And tell us also about the reluctance that you faced or the problems that you faced when you were developing this project. I'm sure you must have had many challenges that you had to overcome. So if you could talk to us about that.
Yes, there were challenges, and but the original equipment manufacturer, the ShahRukh, was, I would say, technically very forthcoming. Whenever we discussed with them at good technical level and good technical details, they respected us, and they considered our opinion, and each time we were going to them, because of the previous discussion, they had more respect for us. And slowly and gradually, that all the reluctance, they thought that initially that we are probably a third world country, and we probably would not possess the right knowledge to take on and discuss with them things, intricate things, which are required for the structure repair and the systems recovery of these aircraft. But I would say that the training system of PAF, through which we have gone and through which we have come out as individuals, is so strong that it gave us the right ingredients to undertake any kind of work, any kind of specialization. And once we sit with our counterparts in the Western world, I can tell you with full confidence that we are at par.
Well, that's very heartening to know, sir. That's fantastic. A very, very big achievement for us, and it makes the heart of every Pakistani swell up with pride, when we hear such feel-good stories, and we need more of these, actually, to make us feel good, considering the situation that we are facing globally. Rizwan sahab, moving forward, you were dealing with the certification aspect of this entire project. What challenges did you have to face?
This was our first experience of certifying something like this. PF has had certification processes in place for different projects. They were usually project specific. They were usually very limited in scope because we had never done something of this scale.
And if you could also tell us why it's so important, what exactly is certification and what's its importance?
The certification, the full name of our authority would actually give you an idea. It's the PAF Airworthiness Certification Authority. So airworthiness means that this system or this aircraft or this whatever you are building is good enough to fly. How good enough? How good is the quality of work that has gone in? This has to be measured against some standards which have been set by the advanced countries in the world. And usually you use either European or American standards. But every standard just tells you, okay, this is the scale against which to check it. Then you have to develop the capability to be able to check it. So we had knowledgeable people, we had experienced people like Rafique here, and then we used all this combined knowledge to see where we were meeting our standards, where we were not. And alhamdulillah, the quality of our work was that I think we rarely had to ever go back and do something over, which meant that the first time it was done right. And that is the best you can do.
Absolutely.
That's better than any other country in the world.
Incredible, sir. That is also very heartening to know. So now you've been through this entire process. Now those planes that were grounded are flying in the air. Must make you feel very proud of your achievement as well. But how is that now looked upon within the Air Force, and how does that change or rather boost the morale of the Air Force when it comes to running operations?
Oh, absolutely. I think every person in the Air Force, officer, airman, civilian, every person is absolutely proud of this achievement. And it is by no means an achievement of these people sitting here. We must put this, we were in that time and space. I'm sure any other engineer would have been able to do it. Any other pilot would have flown it. I mean, this is just the capability of the organization which has brought it here. Our forefathers, starting from Air Marshal Asghar Khan all the way down to the current chief, have put so much emphasis on our training. Pilot training, they become the best of the best in the world through our different stages ending at the Combat Commander School. Engineering, our College of Aeronautical Engineering is by far the best institute in the country. And it is at par with any other country in the world. We don't say it just because it's ours. It's in standardized tests. Our students stand in 95, 97 percentile in the world. So that's an achievement. So it's not just that we were something special. The whole Air Force setup is something special. And so we had the right people. We put together 50, 60 people, and the aircraft are flying. Every single one of us is so proud.
So Shakeel sir, moving forward, what sort of a vision do you have for the Air Force after this, the achievement of this very important milestone or goal, as you can say? What do you think it should be the lessons that you would like to impart, generally speaking, to the people as well as to your colleagues?
I think one of the biggest things that has happened with this project, it's inspired a lot of young engineers. It's been an inspiration. It's been a matter of pride for us. As you know, as highlighted, that the engineers which we are producing are world class, and they would take the baton, and sky's the limit, and there's no holding back.
Fantastic. Rafique sir, if you would also share with us what you have learned out of this experience and your vision for the future. What message would you like to give to your young officers who work for you?
So a learning process never ends, as we all know. I am still learning, which I started more than 44 years back once I joined in early 70s, the PF, and it is still going on. The important thing is that the young graduates, engineers, similarly the young technicians, the skilled technicians, the very old people like me, and the very young guys, those who came just out of the School of Aeronautics, as we take out the engineer from CAE, and similarly we get the people from School of Aeronautics for technicians. So they did wonderful job, and I always wanted this thing to have the fresh people, those who should carry on the baton. And alhamdulillah, that is done, and today my area is a center of excellence for the structural repairs.
All right.
All kind of the aircraft.
Well, right now we do know that Pakistan manufactures the JF-17 aircraft, Thunder aircraft. Is that the only plane that we are manufacturing, or are there others as well?
We were making a light aircraft, SAB, that was also from SAB, and we call it Mashak. And later on we did a lot of work on other modifications, structural modifications, and similarly system modification. But the main product now, we can say that is the JF-17. And for future, I think, as Air Commodore Rizwan told you, that for future we have a very good setup of our academia over there. And then if we have industry academia coordination, I think the Pakistan will be
that's a $1 billion thing that you've said, sir, that we need the coordination and cooperation between the academia and all other sectors of our country, in fact, not just the military.
Of course.
Other than that, Rizwan sir, what would you like to share with us as what you gained from this entire project? Some anecdotes that you'd like to share that you went through, some interesting event that you witnessed?
Well, there were so many events and everything happening. So we used to travel a lot between Islamabad and Kamra because of this. There were meetings in Islamabad, and there were work going on in Kamra. And somewhere in the early days, we got a report, somebody probably joked, that now the Taliban are going to target you who are trying to fix the aircraft. And so the air staff, the level of support, can you believe that they said, we'll give you helicopters to fly from here and there. Never got to sit in that helicopter. I'm still waiting for that. No,
hopefully you didn't need it, sir.
No, absolutely. No, it was just on the lighter side. But the beauty of it was not a single person, junior to senior, had any feeling of a weekend or a holiday or something, because this work became so important, it got a life of its own. And all of us got together to do this. One of the things that has come out of this, I think one of the biggest thing, is this coordination that you just talked about. The concept of the aviation city, it's putting academia, design, and industry in one place. It's very similar to the American model of MIT. So if you put them all in one place, now you should be able to actually go to any height.
Right.
And with the proven capability that we have already proven, I'm sure the enemy is worried.
So how far do you think, Shakeel Saab, are we from making a completely indigenous aircraft from scratch? I mean, we're already making JF-17 Thunders, but more advanced aircraft that we've seen other air forces in the world that are showing them off. How far do you think we are from there?
It's difficult to give a timeline, but sooner rather than later, and maybe a decade.
So in a decade, you think Pakistan would be making their own aircraft with no spare parts required to be imported from any advanced so-called country?
we probably would be hopefully making the next generations of fighter aircrafts in a decade, hopefully.
Fantastic.
And the kind of vision which our Chief of Air Staff has, as I said earlier, there's no stopping me, there's no holding us back.
All right, so talk to us about the training that the PAF imparts to its soldiers, I would like to say. Starting with you, Rafique Saab, what would you think is the highlight or the most important aspect of the training that you were given being in the PAF?
We have very good training institutes in PAF for the technicians also. As I mentioned earlier, that is at Korangi, Karachi. And we have two big schools over there, a School of Aeronautics and School of Electronics. So our main force is coming from there. And once they are coming at the base, we have a continual process of improvement in their training. And for our technicians, I am talking about the workforce which is in the field. So there is a long program for their training, on-the-job training, tests going on regularly, and they are certified. And then they are given the next phase of working on the second. In the second phase, they move to the advanced work. So that is a continuous work, and that this never stops.
All right, Shakeel Saab, you're a PhD, and Rizwan Saab, you're also a PhD. So where did you get your PhD? That's a question that I'd like to ask.
In fact, we were together.
Oh, fantastic. That makes it easier.
We were together at the University of Manchester in UK, and we were in the same school as well.
Okay.
And, so the understanding, the friendship, and the camaraderie, in fact, what is happening, Air Commodore Rizwan is my senior, and wherever he has gone, I have followed him. So it's either a coincidence or I don't know what is it.
Do you think that you needed to go to the UK for this advanced education, or do you think that now that you have this education, you would be giving it to our younger lot?
Yeah, this is what is happening. PF puts a lot of emphasis on higher education, and the reason is that we build up our capacity and capability to breed our young engineers with the latest available knowledge and the best of the capabilities. Now, College of Aeronautical Engineering is a premier institute of engineering, and it has almost 70% of its instructors as PhDs. And those instructors, what they're delivering, are the starting point for those youngsters, and they are beginning from there. So from where they would be starting would be a head start. And this is just because I got inspired from my teachers. I happen to teach at the College of Aeronautical Engineering, and I take it as a great honor that if I can inspire a young breed of engineers, young group of young people, and who can move and really change the world. However, having said that, I think at the country level, we probably need to work harder and really build up our further institutes so that we can, across the country, develop all kinds of capabilities.
All right, and Rizwan Saab, what's your take on this?
Oh, absolutely. Higher education, of course, at all levels is very important. The Air Force has always been in the forefront of technological capability and education. Our PhD and MS programs have been ongoing for decades, and the good thing was that every time an MS or a PhD would come back, he would go to our college and teach, so that the latest knowledge would be imparted to our youngsters. So all our BE engineers and the MS and PhDs then contributed. But this doesn't only involve officers and the airmen, as Rafique just mentioned. This is in all branches, and it continues all through your career. I did my last course maybe about 6 months ago.
All right.
So you keep doing some bits of training throughout your career because you don't want to be out of date. And the only way you can be current and of some importance in this world today is if you're continuously educated.
Absolutely.
And the Air Force has a very good system of that. Now with the Aviation City, bringing a university in Kamra, very close to Attock, this will give a very big boost to that area also. And with the linkage with the industry, we will hopefully be able to get roots into the civil market and the civil industry and bring more people into this higher level of education.
Absolutely. I think that's really, really important, sir. Moving forward, sir, what's your vision for the future? You've already mentioned the Aviation City. Of course, that's still in the process of being built.
Absolutely.
And how long do you think that's going to take?
The Air University, which is going to be the foundation of this Air University, is already in existence. It's in existence in Islamabad.
Right.
But now there's going to be a campus in Kamra. So we already have the university in place. We already know what we're doing, hopefully. And this will just grow. It will take a few years, but the master's program has already started. So the Air Force believes in a very different set of timelines. So when the inauguration happened, the program had already been running for the last 2 months, the master's program, because you don't need as many facilities.
The deadline is always yesterday.
The deadline is always yesterday.
Okay.
And alhamdulillah, it is running successfully.
Fantastic, sir. So, in your opinion, sir, when we talk about the air forces of the world, where would you rate the Pakistan Air Force, especially when we talk about the regional sort of countries, especially when we talk about our enemy, numero uno? How would you rate our air forces?
I mean, of course, I'll rate it number one. There's no doubt about it. But, I mean, forget about rhetorics and everything. We have proven ourselves multiple times. We may not have the highest level of equipment. We may not have as much equipment as the enemy has. But our capability is never in doubt. I think we've proven it in the
So
wars.
it's more about quality than quantity.
Absolutely.
Because the Indians may have more planes, but we have better pilots, and that's where it really counts. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out the time and being on the show. It was a great honor and a privilege. Well, you heard the conversation, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation that we had, and is hoping that more success comes Pakistan's way. Pakistan Zindabad.